In this exercise, we'll see how to fetch the data from the core data, and after getting the data from the core data, how we will be inflating the table view. So first thing, you have to get your context. Now to perform a select query, there is an object called fetch request. So whenever you want to call a select query on the core data, you have to create an object to call ns fetch request. Now ns fetch request needs the entity name on which you have to perform the fetching. So in order to get a reference of the entity, that's a table inside the core data, you have to use an object called entity descriptor, ns entity description, where you have a function called entity for name, where you provide the entity name and the context. So that entity will be setting to your request entity. Now you have order by clause in your SQL query, where you can perform some ordering on respective columns. So we are creating one sort descriptor on salary, which is ascending. You can have multiple sort descriptor or inside one select query. So basically you can create multiple sort descriptor on various columns, and then you have to create at the end array of sort descriptors. Those sort descriptors you can append to your fetch request. Suppose you have a where clause. In my scenario, we don't have any where clause. We are saying select all from the table employee. If you have where clause, then you can use ns predicate. Ns predicate act as a condition to fetch the data or perform any action on the core data. That you can take it up as an exercise after the completion of this module. Now I'll be creating, I'll calling the execute fetch request on the context, where I'll pass the request and the error as a double pointer, because execute fetch request will be returning me an array of objects which I am typecasting as employee object of employee, array of employee object. If employee is nil, I'll say no data found. If employee is not nil, basically I have got the array of objects. I need to create table of employee, where I'll write those standard 4 lines. So as soon as you write those 4 lines, you have to implement those two important callbacks. So number of rows will be employee.count. You will be creating table view cell. You will dequeue that table view cell with say employee as UI table view cell. If nil, you will create using subtitle. First thing, you will be extracting the employee object from the employees, and then you will be setting those employee to the respective. So text label you represent by the first name, whereas detailed text you are representing to the by department name. So employee dot belongs to dot name. So and that's it. So you will be getting your data. Now in the same, suppose we have created a navigation button where on the right side of your navigation bar, which will on click will call the add employee. Now this add employee function will get triggered. In this we'll be performing the insert query. So we need to create the references of the employee entity as well as the department entity. So and we'll say we want a reference for the entity for inserting the new object. So in entity description you have a function called insert new object for entity name. Employee you will typecast to the employee object, and department for the department object. Now we are not using any view form, which we already covered in SQLite. So we are hard coding them, first name, last name, and the salary. Salary is an NS number, so you have to call NS number and pass the float value. Similarly, name, department will have name and budget. Then last line will say employee dot belongs to is equal to department, and this equation will make sure that department dot contains equal to new employee. And then you have to call one method called save. That save, if it returns false, you will be displaying an alert saying cannot add an employee. And now we are using gestures to delete the employee in your table. So if you want to use gestures on your table view, you have to implement the commit editing style callback from the UI table view delegate. It's an optional callback. Now there are 3 types of editing style: delete, move, and insert. So if your editing style, when you put a gesture on your cell, the delete gesture, so you compare with the editing style. So if a delete is performed, you will be extracting the object, the row on which the delete is performed using index_path.row. You will be calling the manage context. There you will be calling a function called delete object. On a context, it will delete the employee. Now your core data have removed the data, but you need to make sure your array also removes that object and your table view also delete that row. So for that you will say remove object at index for the array, and table has a function called delete row at index where you can pass the index path and you can show them the animation where however you want, left to right, top, bottom, predefined animation. So this is what we have. Now in this we'll run your project. So project 2 gets, but we didn't bind this core data view controller to your app delegate. So in next exercise we'll be binding this and we'll be performing all the relevant operation on the view.